Okay, if I just look absolutely dead to you guys, it's because I'm sick while filming this video. So what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, welcome. Glad you're here. If you're not new, also glad you're here. But anyways, today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite books of 2021. I'm kind of jumping on late with all of these like 2021 videos, like recap videos, just because I originally wasn't going to do them because I don't know. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do those. I'm going to do something else instead. And then I just really wanted to do this video, but didn't realize how hard it was going to be to pick my top 10 favorite books of 2021. It was so hard. I wrote down on a list all of the books that I loved from 2021, and I came up with 29 books that I loved from 2021. So I managed to get this list down to 10. And some of these you guys probably are already aware of being like one of my favorites, and some of these you might not. So I think it'll be fun to talk about it. Also, I am filming this at like 7:30 p.m. at night. Again, while sick, so I have a horrible headache. So, and I feel like you can hear it in my voice a little bit. I also have a sore throat, so you know, we're thriving over here, honestly. So, yeah, I'm also standing while doing this video, which I don't know how I feel about standing while filming, but also standing while filming while sick. Not the best combination, but anyways, we're gonna go with it. I wrote down, don't look, all of those top 10 books because I'm using my phone to film. But you guys, some exciting news. I bought a camera, a better camera than this DSLR that I used to use. This one is great for photography and everything else, but when it comes to video, it doesn't autofocus while recording, so it just doesn't, if I get out of focus, like I wouldn't even know. That's not the point of today's video. I'm just really excited to tell you guys that I bought a camera. So I do have a camera that is supposed to show up in the next few days. So hopefully this will be my last video that I ever film on my phone. These top 10 books, I'm going to be talking about them in order from like number 10 to number 1. So like, you know, like 10th place to like first place. So yeah, if you want to see like my top 3, you gotta wait till the end of the video, okay? It's gonna be fun. I'm excited. And I'm gonna try not to talk too much about these books either, because I feel like these videos can sometimes be ridiculously long and they don't need to be. So I'm gonna try to keep mine like short and sweet. Okay, coming in at 10th place, we have Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. Oh my gosh, I love this book. Also, yes, it's in 10th place, but it doesn't mean that it was bad. Also, fun fact, I don't have real pants on. Like I have like pajama pants on. You can't even see, but anyways, so Grown. Grown is basically about a girl named Enchanted, and she is a singer. She loves to sing, and she basically goes on this like singing competition show thing, and a famous singer actually ends up being in the audience, and she catches his attention, and he's like, hey, you should come shadow with me. I'll teach you everything you need to know about the music industry and all this stuff. And this is like a dream come true for her. So she goes through this whole like intern process with this guy, and turns out this guy actually has a dark side to him, and she gets mixed up in a lot of really horrible and heavy things. So that is something I would forewarn you if you're going to read this, is that it is really, really heavy. There are like very heavy topics. There is like definitely trigger warnings for this, so make sure you look up the trigger warnings before digging into this. But I thought it was so good, and I'm pretty sure that this is actually based off the story of R. Kelly or something. It's pretty much based off of that, because this was like something that happened like in real life, but she put like a fiction spin on it. Yeah, so also keep that in mind, is that it's kind of based off of like real world events, but it was super well done. I read this in like less than 24 hours. It was like so easy to read, and it was really gripping and just like really like interesting, and you literally cannot, like I could not put this book down, and for that it definitely won top 10 for 2021. I mean, this book was stellar. Okay, number 9, Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. If you've been on my channel, you know that this is already one of my favorite books. It has been since the beginning of last year. Also, I would have grabbed my like really nice hardback, but it's just tucked away and that's too much work. So we're grabbing the paperback today, which I very much annotated. I loved this book. So this book is basically about a witch and a witch hunter who are forced into holy matrimony. So they are forced to get married because the witch, Lou, she gets basically caught doing something she's not supposed to be doing, and the only way to like save her butt and not be punished for it is she has to like marry this guy, and he like basically takes the blame, and he's like, oh, like, you know, it's not her fault, like whatever. And so he basically takes the blame for it. He doesn't go down for it or anything, because that's just the world that they live in. And they are forced to be married, and he has no idea that she is a witch, and he is all about taking witches down and putting them away and getting rid of them. So it's a really, really interesting story, and there is some romance in here, and I just really, really loved this world. I have a mug like of these characters that I got from Etsy. I don't know, everything about this I love, like the vibes, the atmosphere, the story, like the characters, just so good. Lou, in my opinion, is one of the most likable characters ever, because she is like super bold, and she kind of like does what she wants, and she's like very unapologetic about it. And she reminds me of me a little bit, actually. Like when it comes to certain things, I'm like, yeah, I would act that way too. But she's really, really funny. There's a lot of moments in here that I laughed out loud in, because I just thought it was so good. Now, do keep in mind that it is YA, so it's obviously going to be a little bit like lighter. It's going to be more of a younger read, but I actually really enjoyed that, and I thought it fit perfectly with this story. I feel like if this would have been done as like a new adult or an adult fantasy, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, because it was a little bit more lighthearted. So for that reason, it's in my top 10, and I will forever love this book. Number 8, there is something on my book. Okay, Ace of Spades. So this book is amazing. I think everybody should read it. It has a lot of representation of racism, all that kind of stuff, and it is just really, really great to be aware of. But basically, this is about 2 students, Devin and Jamaica. Hers is always hard for me to remember. I don't know why. It sounds just like Jamaica. Like, why can't you get that right? Anyways, so this is about 2 students, Jamaica and Devin, and they are attending this like prestigious private school, and they are the only colored students in this entire school. They're both a little bit suspicious about like how they, like not really suspicious like how I got in, but like why only us kind of thing. And then they start receiving like threatening letters and messages about someone named Aces, who is trying to expose them, like knows something dirty about their past and wants to expose them and basically get them kicked out of school. And they are on a hunt to figure out who Aces is. And the tagline is, how do you stop an unknown enemy? So they have no idea who they are. They have no idea how to like get in contact with them, like anything. Like they know nothing. They have to start from bottom, like square one, and figure out like who is after them and why. And it is just a really, really great story. It's super entertaining. It is absolutely a page turner. It's great. But again, it does deal with that whole racism thing. So if that is triggering for you, or it can be difficult to read for you, maybe shy away from this one a little bit. But personally, I think they did a great job of just kind of making everybody aware of like how racism looks like in ways that you don't consider someone being racist. You know what I mean? So it was just, I don't know, it was really eye-opening, and I really feel like everybody should read this book because I think it's so important. I think it had some really, really awesome, important morals and values in the story, along with just a great, great entertainment piece. So I do recommend this one as well. Why did I pick the books that are like tucked away everywhere? Okay, so number 7, we have The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. So if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that back in January of 2021, I actually read this, and this has never, ever left my brain. I loved this story. So this is a thriller, and basically it is about this girl, and she moves into this new town, and she's like a dog walker, and I'm pretty sure she's like, okay, yeah, so she moves to this town, and she's kind of like a pickpocketer. Basically, like, she's a dog walker, but she like steals things from people, and she ends up walking dogs in like this like really rich neighborhood, and she meets this guy named Eddie who's recently just lost his wife in like a accident of some sort, like she drowned or something, and she ends up walking his dog for him, and this whole romantic relationship begins between the two of them. But then some things start to go down that have to do with his previous wife, and we learn something on like page 50. I kid you not, like you're barely dipping your toes into this book, and something happens, and it completely changes the entire meaning of the whole story. Like, you go in thinking one thing. Like, if you read the synopsis, okay, you just read the synopsis, and you have your idea and you're like, okay, I know what I'm reading. And then you get to page 50 and then you're like, no, I didn't know what I'm reading. Please read this. Please read this. I even have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins on my shelf that I got from Book of the Month. I can't wait to get into it because if it's anything like this one, it will be a top 10 for 2022. So I'm excited. Number 6 is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. You guys know Riley Sager is one of my all-time favorite authors. I think his writing is just fantastic. But I think his writing is absolutely amazing and his stories are always so good. The plot twists in his books are like, what? Like, how did you even think that up? It's so good. It's so good. So this is basically about a girl, and I think her name is Maddie. Why do I always think that? Literally every time. For some reason, I think the girl's name is Maddie, but it's not. It's Charlie. Charlie is a college student, and her best friend has just been murdered, okay, by some unknown killer, okay? Her best friend's just been murdered, and she wants to go back to her hometown for Thanksgiving just to be with her family because she's not dealing with her friend's death very well. Basically, everybody leaves to go back home for the holidays before she ends up wanting to leave, and now she has no idea how she's gonna get back home. And then this guy named Josh Baxter decides to offer her a ride, and her, you know, being the character in a thriller novel, is like, yeah, you can take me for a ride home even though you're a stranger. But the best part about this whole thing is that she knows it's a dumb idea. She knows. And so you hear her thoughts through this whole thing and she's like, this is dumb, like, why am I doing this? But she's like trying to talk herself out of it, like, no, he's not a bad guy, like, you just need to stop being so paranoid about it. A really important piece of information about this book is that Charlie has this disorder almost, and if something intense is happening, her brain, like, she has an obsession with movies, so her brain kind of like goes through this storyline of like something that could have happened, and she'll like come to after like daydreaming essentially, but she can't decipher if what she just daydreamed is what happened or if that was just her daydreaming. So like she can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Like, she's just like, and it doesn't happen the whole book, but there are instances where things happen and you as the reader aren't even sure, like, okay, did she think that up or did that actually happen? And it makes the story 10 times better because, again, it's that like, who do you trust? What's real? What's not? And I thought it was amazing. And then the plot twist at the end of this book, guys, there's like 4 plot twists within like a 20-page period. And you're just like, holy crap. You feel all over the place. And then you finally figure it out. It is the best reveal. It's so good. So definitely one of my top favorites, and you should definitely read this book if you like thrillers, and especially if you like the type of thrillers where they're trapped in a car ride. Those are the ones. So this one was really good. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. So I read this one over the summer, and wow, you guys, I first of all was super hesitant reading this book because it's a sci-fi, and I'm kind of iffy about sci-fi. Sometimes they're really cheesy to me, and I wasn't even originally going to read this. I had actually bought this for my husband, and then one of my TBR games basically gave me this book as one of the books on my TBR. So I read it, and I was absolutely blown away. I tabbed this book so much. I think this was the first book that ever, like, not brought me to tears, but I got really close to crying, and no book has ever done that, and I have to give props to this book for that. But basically, this is about a girl. I can't even remember characters' names. So this is about a girl named Spencer, and she basically lives in this world where like debris that's like covering their planet essentially from like a war. I don't know, something. I don't even know, to be honest with you. But basically there's this like casing around her planet, and she's in this like space school almost, and she like trains to be a pilot. Her father was like a famous pilot, and he actually was like killed in a battle, but then was marked as a coward because he was seen fleeing like the battle site. So he was marked as a coward, and she is now living out her life as the coward's daughter. And so she decides to become a pilot and try to prove her father's innocence, like to kind of clear his name and say like, my father was not a coward. And so she digs into like this whole battle, this whole like fight that happened way back when, and she discovers obviously some secrets, some things are being turned up, but it's so good. Like, I feel like the way that I'm explaining it, you're like, that sounds really dumb. It's so good. It is so good. I've never read a sci-fi where I am gripped from the very beginning. Why do I have to yawn every time the camera's on? Like, I've never read a sci-fi that has gripped me that fast, and this one did, and I was so impressed. Like, I think you should read this. I just think you should read this. I loved it, and I didn't expect to love it, and if you're not expecting to love it, you probably will end up loving it. So you should definitely give this one a try, and then also let me know if you like it, because I was hesitant too, and I loved it, so let me know. Okay, so number 4, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. So if you guys obviously have been on my channel, you probably know that I'm not a romance reader. I don't really care for romance, although that changed after this book. So this is basically about a girl named, Poppy? No, Poppy and Alex is the other Emily Henry book. Okay, so this is January and Augustus, which I think is so cute that their names are months out of the year. Okay, I remember now. So January likes to write like happily ever after kind of romances, and Augustus likes to not write happy ever afters, and he likes to just kill off his cast essentially. So basically, one summer they are neighboring at these beach houses, and to get each other out of their creative ruts, they decide to switch roles. So she's gonna write kind of like a devastating, sad, whatever story, and he's going to write some happily ever after romance. And obviously their writing brings them together, and we have this whole romance that starts to kind of unfold, and it is absolutely beautiful. The writing in this is so easy to read. Again, this is another page turner, and I know that this one is kind of like hit or miss for people, but for me, for it being like the first ever romance that I really read, I loved it. I thought it was perfect, and I loved these characters. They were so likable, and then I was totally rooting for them the whole book, which doesn't tend to happen, but I definitely recommend this one, especially if you want just like a light read. And it says beach read, but you don't need to read it in the summer. You can read it at any point. But this one was just so good. This one also almost brought me to tears at the very end, and I just thought it was so special. So definitely give this one a try, especially if you're not really into romance. I wasn't either until I read this book, so give it a try. It's really cute. Okay, so number 3 I feel like is gonna come as no surprise to anyone, but that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. We have another Riley Sager in our top 10. I'm telling you, his writing is impeccable. But this is basically about a girl, wait, is this one's name Madison? No, Maggie. Guys, I'm just blurring names here. Okay. So basically this is about a girl named Maggie, and her father is like a famous author essentially, and he writes this book about this home that they stayed in when she was really young, and talked about all its haunted things that happen, and he gets famous off of this book. Well, Maggie has no memory like of this house, and really of it ever being haunted. And so as she gets older, she decides, I'm pretty sure, does her father pass away? Yes. Okay, so her father passes away, and she inherits the home that he writes about in his book, which she thought he sold and they didn't have any ownership of. But supposedly he still owned it, and so she, looking for answers, decides to go to this home, and she wants to completely renovate it and sell it. Well, she decides to go to this home, and she starts learning secrets about the home, and she's also reading, like remembering her father's book, and a lot of the instances in her father's book is happening in the home, and it's this whole back and forth thing of like, is the house haunted, is it not? And it's just, oh my gosh, at the very end of the book, you guys, you get answers, but then you close this book still wondering, is the house haunted? It's so good. It is one of the scariest books I've ever read, but I am a baby, so that's probably not saying much. But a lot of it was like super creepy and eerie. Like, I could not read this while I was home alone. Jonathan had to be home. So if you like kind of spooky stuff like that, you will definitely love this, especially this being a little bit more of like a mystery kind of feel to it too. But this one was so good. I read this one in less than 24 hours. Also, I just could not put this down. It was so freaky. It was so freaky, but so good. So definitely you should read this one. I mean, it made it to my top 3, so it's pretty stinking good. Okay, so number 2, we have From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I picked up this one very hesitant because I heard some things about this book, like, oh, it has a slow start, like, but it is really good. And slow starts are rough for me. So I was kind of hesitant about picking up this book. and I love this book. I will never ever stop thinking about this book. It is so, so good. So in this book, we follow Poppy, who is the maiden. She is like the purest of all women, and she basically grows up in like this church, essentially, and she has this list of things that she's not allowed to do, never allowed to know about, kind of thing, and she's kind of sheltered from the world. Well, one night, she ends up sneaking out to like this tavern, like this bar, essentially, and obviously she meets this guy, and this guy makes her feel ways she's never felt before in her life, and she ends up leaving there, never seeing him again, and she can't stop thinking about this guy. Well, this guy becomes her like bodyguard, kind of, and of course they're reunited and some sparks come back, and it is like this whole like beautiful romance of these two people, but also like a perfect balance of romance and then like fantasy and then like action. Like there's stuff going on. So I think it's like this perfect blend, and I just love this book. I will warn you, if you do read this book, I didn't know this going in, but this book is definitely spicy. It's on the spicier side. So if you're not really into spicy, be aware of that. However, you still could read this and skip through those pages and you wouldn't have gaps in the story. It would make total sense. I definitely thought at times it was a little too spicy for me, but as far as the book goes, it was amazing and I loved it. I love these characters. I even read the second book and loved it. So I still need to read the third one and the fourth one, but it's okay. But yes, so I really, really love this book. I thought the writing was perfect, and considering that it's like a 600-page book, I read this in like 2-3 days. So it doesn't feel like one of those thick, dense 600-page books. It definitely feels like it is like 300 pages, and it is all action and it's moving, and it is so, so perfect. I just love this book so much, and I love these characters, and it's just amazing. You learn secrets at the end of this book, and then you understand why there's like this whole series to it. So this one's amazing. Definitely read it. Okay, and now the moment you've been waiting for, number one, you guys, my number one favorite book of 2021, The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. You guys know, if you watched the vlog where I read this, I'll try to link it if I can figure out which vlog it was. I read this one in a day. Like, I started it in the morning and I finished it by the time I went to bed. It was a one-sitting book. I couldn't put it down. It was so good. I read this with Sydney over at Sydney Page Books, and she also loved it, but amazing. Such a good book. Again, I'm not a big romance person, yet a romance made it to the top of my list. This is basically like fan fiction. This is supposed to be Rey and Kylo Ren from Star Wars, but if you're not a Star Wars fan, that doesn't even matter because it's not even really referred to at all in the book, but that's like the fan fiction of it. Like, that's kind of where I think it came from. So we have Olive and we have Adam, and Olive is kind of like a science major student at this like facility, and she's, you know, has all these labs to do, and Adam is one of the like bosses. So he's kind of like one of the teachers at this place, and she runs into him when I think he was a student or something, and they have this whole like interaction, and then years later she's back as like a student or something. I honestly don't remember how it all started. I just know how it ended, and essentially it's the whole fake dating trope. So she's trying to convince her best friend that she is over this other guy because her best friend wants to date her ex, or not really her ex, but this other guy that she was interested in, and she's trying to convince her friend that she's over him. So she ends up fake dating Adam, and of course fake dating leads to dating, right? We know that. So leads to this whole romance between the two of them, and it is perfect. It is, oh my gosh, it is the most heartwarming story ever. These characters are so lovable, likable. The story, you guys, look at this tabbing and the dog ears. Like, do you see all of these folded pages? Like, you guys, so good. Like, this book brought so much emotion out of me. I don't think I've ever been more angry in my life, not angry at either of these characters, about another side character that was just, oh, he's an idiot. I don't like him. Her or him, we don't know. Anyways, so this book brought out so many emotions in me. I literally, like, if I had to pick a book to read every day for the rest of my life, it would be this book. Like, hands down, it would be this book. and I really want to read it again, actually, now that I'm talking about it. But this one, you guys, is so good. I know a lot of you have seen it all over TikTok and BookTube and Bookstagram and all that kind of stuff, and it is well deserved. This book deserves to be at the top. Ali Hazelwood is a genius, and I'm really excited for her next book, Love on the Brain, I think it's what it's called. You guys, I'm excited. But anyways, Love Hypothesis is definitely #1 of 2021. Okay, so those are my top 10 books of 2021. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry if it is super long. I really tried, but looking at my timestamp right now before editing this is kind of long. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that some of these books intrigued you. I hope you end up picking some of them up. And if you've read any of them, please let me know in the comments down below which one of these is your favorite, or maybe which one of these made it to your top 10. That would be interesting to know, or even what books were in your top 10. I also would love to know that in case I haven't read them. Maybe I can read them in 2022. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you in my next one.